when you watch 5 films online that people are calling traumatic, disturbing, and haunting without knowing anything about them beforehand. You lose your mind in the most unexpected ways, honestly. I dove headfirst into the unknown, no trailers, no reviews. I combed the internet and found the first 5 films that I had not seen before that people are claiming to be disturbing, and I wrote them down and dove straight in. Okay, I started with When the Wind Blows, and don't be mistaken, this might look like a cute cartoon, but it is so much more. This is based on the Raymond Briggs graphic novel, and it's a British animated drama that blends the innocence of domestic life with the unthinkable horror of nuclear war. The animated war drama follows an English couple, Jim and Hilda, who are secluded in their home, ready to follow government-issued pamphlets to survive a nuclear attack. The film's concept is what sets it apart. It begins as a quaint watercolor type animation that feels deceptively comforting. It's like a child's book illustration, but make no mistake, this is an adult's film and a chilling one. It's deeply political and almost satirical, showing the absurdity of the blind trust that the couple have in these pamphlets in the face of a disaster. Hilda literally has a go at Jim when he pulls the doors off their hinges and scratches the interior paint in their house. He's trying to make a shelter for when the bomb goes off, but heaven forbid they scratch anything inside the house. The denial in this film is haunting. As I stated, as this film begins, it's soft and whimsical, but parts of the animation begin to change and soon swap themselves out for the real thing. So it begins like a storybook concept, and then there are some additions made, usually with just objects in frame, which still count as stop frame animation, but there are some other live action inserts that are mixed in. It is quite literal, but it works really well with the messaging, seeing this 2D animated couple kind of step into the real world in some aspects or have that introduced. It's like what they're reading in this pamphlet is coming to life. And the craziest thing about all of this is going in blind to a film like this, not knowing the origin, which completely changed how I saw the whole film. The movie is based on a public information campaign on civil defense, and this was produced by the British government and ran from the 70s to the 80s. There were pamphlets, newspaper advertisements, ads on the radio, and even some films. And this was known as Protect and Survive, which is the pamphlet that he reads in the movie. The film is topped off by the caricature of the British middle-aged couple bickering about the little things in life, nagging each other along the way. It's almost like the characters out of Keeping Up with Appearances. It's pure dark commentary on a time where citizens were given just a how-to guide to survive a traumatic disaster. And it's unfortunate that 40 years later, it's more relevant than ever. I don't think some citizens would get much more than that in comfort or materials. I found the film's metaphorical structure to be haunting and the calm characters to be quite disturbing, but more so afterwards when I did some reflection and some research. It does have a very grim ending though. I'd recommend everyone to watch this. It's really well put together. It is very fast. It's only 84 minutes long. And if you're into anything to do with war drama, Grave of Fireflies, come and see. This is very different to that, but it does earn its spot. And the endless IMDb reviews say it all. I would give this one a 6.5 out of 10 on the disturbing scale. But I am telling you, nothing could have ever prepared me for what I was about to see next. Mobius. If you've seen this film, imagine going into it blind and not knowing anything. This was so bad. I watch a lot of disturbing cinema, especially horrors from Japan and South Korea. So going into this, it had this kind of familiar tone to it. I think it's lower budget, and I just felt like maybe I'd seen it before. If I had only waited a couple of minutes, I would know that if you watch this movie, you cannot forget it. It is burnt into your brain. And I am gonna give some light spoilers for this, but it's very important that I give you some context. I think it's irresponsible if I don't. And honestly, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the first 10 minutes of the whole film, and it gets so much worse somehow. So this is a South Korean psychological horror drama, if you want to categorize it, which I don't know if you can. It's directed by the late Kim Gi-duk, who was a highly controversial filmmaker with multiple allegations against him. And this is truly his film. He not only wrote it, he directed it, he's also labeled as the cinematographer, he edited edited the film. It's under his own production house. It's his film through and through. This movie has no spoken dialogue. You hear characters grunt, laugh, scream, and moan, because that has to do with a lot of the theming. This is a psychosexual horror drama thriller. Information is occasionally shown to us via different articles people are looking at online on a computer, and that is shown in English. So it's not really a Korean language film. But the plot for this one is beyond disturbing, and I hope you're sitting down. A woman discovers that her husband is cheating, and then she tries to castrate him. But she fails this, so she goes into her son's room and decides to do it to him, and then eats part of the member. That is the first 9 minutes. From there, the story follows the aftermath, basically everything that comes out of this traumatic event, how the father and son live with what's happened, and I promise you, you will not guess what happens. The absence of dialogue makes the silence deafening. There's no discussion, no unpacking, just unspoken trauma playing out scene by scene, and it only gets darker. No music, no narration, just raw, awful tension. The film is also relentless with its violence, and a lot of it is sexual, and keep in mind, this happens within a domestic household. It makes for one of the most shocking films I've ever seen, and going in blind, not only for the storyline, but waiting for someone to start talking and not realizing that no one is ever going to speak was really interesting. I don't know what inspired this movie, and I really don't want to know, but presenting this kind of content without dialogue makes it even more intense. It's a low budget film with a very unique story, I'll give it that. I will say the acting was fine, the cinematography was fine, especially for such a small set, but the film doesn't really feel like it's saying much. It's just trying to shock the viewer, and it worked, so congrats on that. I honestly felt like my soul needed a little bit of a pressure wash after this one. I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10 disturbing. But we're not off the hook just yet. The next film was The Road, and this is directed by John Hillcoat, and it's another one that is adapted, this time from Cormac McCarthy's novel. It's a post-apocalyptic drama that strips everything back to raw survival. It stars Viggo Mortensen as man and Cody Smith McPhee as boy, a father and son navigating a scorched, crumbling world where humanity has devoured itself. But this isn't a zombie apocalypse, nor is it sci-fi dystopian. It's based in realism that is dialed up to the most despairing level possible. The film immerses you in a grey, cold, ash-covered wasteland where hope is all but extinguished. Every frame is heavy with dread, and the story doesn't twist, it unravels. The themes in this film are very intense. There is cannibalism, suicide, which is very heavy in this film. So please go into it knowing that. But it's not shock value. It's showing how people cling to survival when everything good in the world is gone. What makes the film heartbreaking, or at least accelerates the storyline, is the boy's perspective, because he was born into this and he doesn't know any better. He constantly asks his father, are we still the good guys? And it's through his innocent eyes that we see how far humanity has fallen and how hard it is to get a hold onto decency in a world without any. The film, just like the book, offers no explanation as to what has happened to the earth, and that's not the purpose or intent of this movie. It's to show how we act, how we degrade, and sometimes maybe how we endure. Every detail from the desaturated color grading to the decaying landscapes echoes the same message. Humans will consume everything. I loved the performances in this film. It's alleged that Mortensen went full method and he wore the same outfit for weeks and even starved himself. He was going to take a break from acting anyway, but he did do this film before taking a 2-year break. And I think it was a very good decision to have this as your last film before just taking a step back. I found this recommendation on this thread, and as soon as I reached the basement scene, I knew exactly what they were talking about. I looked it up afterwards, and apparently the book is so much more descriptive in this scene, and people do say that the film handled it very well. This film was so depressing, just full of despair, but such a good watch, cinematically brilliant, and I kind of liked that it was so simple. But I will say the end, I don't believe that. I don't think it's true. I don't know. I just don't think that I watched the ending that was intended. And I'd be interested if any of you have read the book, what the ending is. Is it similar? I do recommend this one though. It was a very strange film. It's kind of like Children of Men, but darker and less exciting. It is a very kind of slow drama, but it's so beautiful. Its pacing is slow, but it's very intentional. It's just not a high-strung film by any means. I don't find it to be thriller-ish, but yet it still had me very concerned for its characters. Great movie, but for the disturbing scale, probably like a 7 out of 10. It's so well done. It's one of those disturbing films that you'll want to actually watch. Next up, A Simple Plan, directed by none other than Sam Raimi. And while this is one of the most conventional and least outwardly depressing films on this list, it was also a great watch. But it does have its darker moments, so I do understand why some people would be disturbed by this, especially when it comes to the level of greed and desperation the characters get to. The story follows two brothers and a friend who stumble across a duffel bag stuffed with millions of dollars in the snow-covered wilderness. It seems like a harmless crime. Nobody's around. Nobody's gonna miss it. Why not just take it and split it 3 ways? But that simple plan quickly spirals out of control. As they try to keep the money a secret, lies begin to stack, paranoia sets in, and the suspicion creeps between them. And what starts as a small, almost justifiable act of greed turns into something very dangerous. It's a sharp exploration of how quickly people can unravel when they believe a better life is within reach, even if they haven't earned it. I love that the late Bill Paxton was in this film. I adore him, and he plays the lead character, Hank, who you're meant to identify with the most, which is kind of problematic at that, or maybe quite telling as an audience member. But watching his character arc in the film is a wonder. Billy Bob Thornton plays his naive brother, and it gave the film a very interesting dynamic because not only are you seeing what one person will do for greed, but you're seeing all different types of people. Not only are these men in the same position, but they have wildly different lives and needs. This movie becomes a slow motion collapse, showing how easily morals can bend when fear and greed takes hold. One lie becomes two, one mistake becomes irreversible, and soon the idea of just walking away does not exist anymore. It's not an overtly disturbing movie, but emotionally it is. It hits hard, especially towards the end, and I like this film a lot because A Simple Plan is a simple movie. It's just a movie about morals. You watch seemingly ordinary people make one bad choice after another and lose themselves in the process, but this was such a nice surprise. I love films from the 90s, crime dramas, thrillers, and this fits all of those bills. I understand there are a couple of scenes that I would warn people about, but it's all, again, very straightforward and very mainstream. It's just a fun kind of dark and twisted movie. If you enjoy thrillers from the 90s, I really urge you to add this one to your list. Disturbing factor, I give it like a 4 or a 3. I think everyone who's watching this video can watch this one easily, and it's so good. If you like Bill Paxton, you need to watch it. Which leads me to the final film. I have a love-hate relationship with Lars von Trier films. I think everyone does. And I cannot believe it took me to now to watch this movie, Breaking the Waves. It was such a heavy experience, but as a horror fan, I was shocked at the results and making connections along the way. The psychological drama is a 2.5-hour descent into hell. Not really, but almost. Set in the Scottish Highlands in the early 70s, within a strict Calvinist community, we follow Bess, a young woman who is about to marry an oil rigger worker. The film is split into chapters, tracking the seasons of her life. It feels like at the start, it's like 1 week, 1 chapter, next week, kind of that pacing. But by the end of the film, we're just following her through all of it. So it's a very interesting journey through the pacing, and it just really ramps up towards the end. Bess is unstable, and her personal relationship to God reflects that. We see her going to churches throughout the film, or even by herself, talking to God out loud and then replying back as his own voice. So when she prays for something, no matter the cost, it plays out like a monkey paw wish. God answers up to interpretation, but not in the way she wanted. Now she becomes obsessed with interpreting the signs, trying to please both God and her husband in hopes of reversing the situation. The role of Bess was originally offered to Helena Bonham Carter, who turned it down largely because of the sexual content of the film. She was very young at the time and reportedly didn't feel very comfortable in doing certain scenes with her body, so that part went to Emily Watson, and this was her theatrical film film debut. And what a debut. Emily is so raw and committed in this role that she earned an Oscar nomination. However, it came at a personal cost. She was actually expelled from the alleged cult she was in because she was in this movie. The film explores themes of faith, mental illness, sex, and violence. I'm going to be very blatant. Very big sexual themes in this movie, okay? The film really blurs a lot of consent lines and does so in a way that loops in religion, but it's not in the way that you expect. I'm trying not to give you spoilers because it is a really great film. And I wonder if you've caught on to what movie this reminded me so much of. It has to be a huge inspiration for Saint Maud. Saint Maud is a horror movie by Rose Glass, and it's about a nurse that's religious, deeply religious, and she believes that she can save her dying patient, and she believes she's speaking to God and carrying out God's wishes. I can't tell you how similar the characters of Maud and Bess are in so many different ways, and there's also some other surprises I don't want to ruin from this movie that just make them the same. Both films have their faith dictating their descent, and this is definitely a lot more of a stripped back, raw experience, and one you kind of have more of a handle on knowing what the truth is. Even though Bess is an unreliable narrator, it doesn't feel like she is the narrator of this film. Where I think Maud is in Saint Maud, I remember there being narration by her. But back to just breaking the waves, this film is phenomenal. I didn't feel a moment of its runtime. I could have watched this for 6 hours. I cared so much about Bess, and it is just such a raw, hard to watch unraveling, not only because of Bess, but because how she and other people are treated by the church. It pulls you deep into the bleak reality of Bess's world, and then it spits you out in only a way that Lars von Trier dares to do. If I had to compare it, I would say it's A Woman Under the Influence meets Saint Maud with a sprinkle of Dancer in the Dark, and that is for good reason. Breaking the Waves is actually part of von Trier's Golden Heart trilogy, which also includes The Idiots and Dancer in the Dark. Dancer in the Dark is one of my favorite films by him, behind Dogville, but Breaking the Waves definitely is up there now as well, so I need to watch The Idiots. But I think I might need 2 weeks to just kind of refresh after watching this. It was a lot, but I do highly recommend it, especially if you like Saint Maud. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. It's a very disturbing movie. It links religion and sexuality in a completely different way than we're used to, and also is a portrait on mental illness and vulnerability. And the performances are breathtaking. I will watch this film again for sure. So that was my exploration. If you did like this video, make sure to subscribe. I have a lot more like this coming up. I love disturbing movies, so if you want to see a playlist of disturbing movies, I watch so many of them all the time, and I have endless videos. Thank you to my patrons who keep my channel going, and thank you to you for watching. Here is a disturbing iceberg if you're inclined to listen to some more disturbing ramblings, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.